Hey guys, it's Lauren Lando from Elite Sports Services. Today with our interview with Scott Caulfield. Scott is the head strength and conditioning coach for the NSCA, the National Strength and Conditioning Association. I look at Scott as not only a practitioner in this industry, a practitioner who I respect, but also a friend. He does so much for the NSCA, and he's really helping take the NSCA in the direction that for you as a young practitioner, an older practitioner, developing and coming up with content and resources that will help build everybody's practice. So, Scott, thank you for joining us today. Not too far of a drive at least.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad we finally made it happen. We've been talking about it for long enough.
Absolutely. I know you're a busy guy, so to kind of work around your schedule, it's a no-brainer. When we get the opportunity to get you in here, I want to sit down and talk to you and just let everybody hear what you have to say. So really the gist of these interviews is to give practitioners, particularly young kids coming out of school, maybe some young practitioners in the field, a little bit of an idea of how the different roles or paths you can take in this industry. Everybody that has been in here has shown us a uniquely different path, and I'm sure yours is the same as well. So, why don't you just give us a little bit of a, let's go way back, and why don't you tell me a little bit of what got you even involved in strength and conditioning anyway? Not necessarily college, but obviously it started probably middle school, high school for you, just in the weight room for something, right?
Yeah, probably my first ever strength and conditioning for athletics. I mean, I played basketball and soccer in high school. We didn't really do much strength and conditioning training. We'd do some basic body weight stuff. But once I went to college, I went to a place called Champlain College. Okay. It's a junior college in Vermont. It was well known as one of the best basketball programs in the country. They recruited all the guys in there. I made the team my freshman year. Ended up not staying with it. Had a stress fracture in my foot, but it was a cool experience. And that was really first where I saw, hey, this training and sports stuff goes together. And then college didn't work out for me the first time around, so I actually went in the military. I went in the Navy right after my second year of college, which was less than beautiful from a grade standpoint. But in the Navy, I got to do a lot because I got to train a lot and I got to play a lot of sports. And I noticed immediately from lifting that my jumping was better, my quickness was better, I was more athletic.
Awesome.
It was really cool.
So that kind of got you hook, line, and sinkered into this whole relationship that, man, what we do in this weight room can actually transfer to what we do on the field or the court.
Yeah, I saw it in myself, and then I got out of the Navy and I decided to finish school. So I got into a place called Castleton. It's now called Castleton University. It was called Castleton State College when I went there, again in Vermont. And so I wanted to do something related to, it was physical education at the time, but it was with an emphasis, not in teaching, but more in fitness and stuff like that. And again, this time around, while I was a student, I was also an assistant basketball coach at the time. Coaching's always been in my blood in some way, shape, or form. Primarily, it was basketball coaching most of my career until the last 15 or so. So college there, I was coaching, and then I was doing kind of strength and conditioning stuff on the side. Again, not really knowing what I was doing necessarily. And then that turned into working part-time in some fitness clubs. And like you've alluded to, I think I've done a little bit of everything in the industry. So after college, I was really just working part-time at a health club just as a fitness desk guy, cleaning equipment, part-time to get my membership and still train and play basketball in men's leagues and stuff like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're still an athlete.
Yeah, I was still an athlete. Actually, at that time, and I have to brag a little bit, but when I was 25, I got out of the Navy, and I had a 37-inch vertical jump. I could dunk a basketball almost every single time I tried. I mean, wow. I had some hops, and I attribute a lot of it to also training. But then it kind of snowballed from there. So the guy, Dave Piquel, who was my general manager at the fitness club, really noticed how much I loved and how passionate I was about just working in the fitness club. So they brought me on full time. I got a personal trainer certification through another organization, just kind of get my feet wet, kind of a starter one. And then I started talking to people and going to different workshops and clinics, and they said, "Oh man, you're interested in training athletes. You need to get this CSCS certification."
Absolutely.
And so that started me down kind of the path that led, to that the next step, so to speak.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's cool. I love these interviews because I can find out so much about people that I had no clue, and so it's really mind blowing. I saw your video the other day with the dunking as well, so I was like, okay, I know he's got some hops.
Yeah, that was a long time. That was on a. I will give it credit for not being a 10-foot rim.
Yeah, I saw somebody called you out.
Yeah. But back in the day, like you said, basketball was my sport, and I played it pretty well, men's leagues and high level. We just used to play a lot, but. So I was working as a personal trainer and really decided, man, I wish I could, translate this to training more athletes. And I kind of had to make my own, create my own job in that aspect. So I did more research. I looked in the NSCA stuff. I got my CSCS. I passed it the first time. I really started. All right, how do I start training teams? And the first team I ended up working with was at Norwich University, which is the oldest military college in the country. It's in Norwich, Vermont. And their rugby coach, I was actually doing like a free kind of just training fitness program for his daughter who was in like 3rd or 4th grade. They brought the kids to the health club. And him and I just started talking afterwards, and I kind of was telling him about myself and what I do, and he was like, "Do you think you could do this for a rugby team?" And I knew nothing about rugby at the time, but of course I'm trying to get started, and I was like, "Sure." And so he was great. His name is Bob Wegler. He's still there at Norwich as their rugby coach. He gave me a ton of information about the sport of rugby, which then helped me in my kind of program design, needs analysis stuff, looking at energy systems. And that was the first team that I worked with. And then once I did that, I was hooked. So Then I started running a strength and conditioning camp every summer for 13 to 18-year-old kids at our facilities. At that time, I kind of moved up the ladder as a fitness club. I was the fitness director, so I oversaw all the personal training and all the, as running a facility, all those other things that go into that. Yeah. At one point, I took over the group exercise program, so I oversaw the spinning and step aerobics and all those classes, yoga instructors. I mean, I don't know why I ever agreed to do that. Right. Managing, but it's just been about, being able to be good with building relationships and dealing with people and managing your time.
Well, I think that's one of the consistencies we've found all the way through these interviews is that whatever people are doing now, everything it took them to get there doesn't look at all like what they are doing now.
Right.
So it took all those little building block steps to get you to that position that you are now. So okay, you're at the fitness club, you're overseeing, more of a facility manager, overseeing group exercise and the whole nine. Where'd you go from there?
So this was kind of one of those big leap of faith type deals when you come to these points in your career, I think it's the book The Dip by Seth Godin talks about you might be on the plateau and you're there for a while and you just don't know when that next rise is going to come unless you kind of take a leap of faith. So what happened is I was speaking at an NSCA Vermont State Clinic, and I spoke with another lady named Jen Poljasic. She worked at a place called the River Valley Clubs in Lebanon, New Hampshire. Okay. And she started talking about the things they do and the personal training they had, and they just built this sports performance center, which was an old basketball court that they turned into rubber flooring and power racks and stuff. Right. And we just kind of hit it off. And she was basically like, you should come work for us. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, they're talking about really good. A lot of people train at this place, so you can do really well personal training. I went down and visited, and I was pretty much sold. Like I said, we kind of hit it off, and her husband was great. Her husband is they call him a movement specialist, but he's developed his own movement system, very Gary Gray based. Okay. And so I met all these people at this River Valley Club place that I was like, man, I could learn so much from these guys. It was time to take it to the next level. And so I quit my job there, moved down to just work strictly for a commission as a personal trainer, and and not even at that time I was gonna train athletes in the Sports Performance Center, but after about a year I ended up being the director of the Sports Performance Center, and kind of taking over that and taking over the coaches there, and from my background as kind of being a manager, and
I was gonna say, overseeing and managing seems to be in your blood for sure.
It's been a good process, but learning about just a lot more about training athletes. And then at that time while I was there, so that's right next to Dartmouth College, which is in Hanover, New Hampshire. So I had some opportunity to get involved with Dartmouth. I volunteered with the football team for an entire year before they actually decided to bring me on in a part-time capacity. And then that kind of, again, snowballed like other things have. I started training the men's and women's swimming team, and I had been training the rugby team because of my rugby connection. And the Dartmouth rugby program is one of the top rugby programs in the country. Their sevens rugby especially has won the national rugby tournament that they have each year. 2 years in a row they won the championship for that. So it was a really cool opportunity. And again, that's when, I'm jamming. I'm working 6 a.m. in the morning for football lifts, and then going to personal trainer in the middle of the day, and then coming back at night to do other teams. And those are the 15-hour days, and you're working 7 days a week as football trains on Sunday.
Yeah, you grind, and the thing that I love most is you volunteer. Right. Again, every interview, seriously, batting 1,000 here. Every interview, the coaches are talking about how much time they spent volunteering their time just to get a foot in the door. Such a huge message to the young practitioners coming out that you're not going to walk out and get your salaried job. You're not going to walk out and get this. Like, here's the hard, cold facts. And if you want to be great, that's what you do. You find great people to learn from, and offer your time to learn more. Yeah, and it was cool. I can't think of a time that I didn't enjoy. That was about a 3-year period there. And I can't think of not enjoying that grind at all. I don't remember oh man, that was rough. It's like I loved every minute of it. And it was rough. It was a lot of groups, and filling water bottles as the new guy. And and I wasn't a young buck at that point either. I was 33 years old, really, kind of as a beginner in this industry, and so I just wanted to be helpful and see what I could do to help the coaches prepare to get the athletes better. Cool. So talk to me. Where'd you go from there?
Okay, so at that point, I've gotten a little more involved in the NSCA. I'd spoken at a couple clinics. One of my real kind of beginning mentors was the Vermont State Director at the time, and his name is Paul Goodman. He was the University of Vermont strength and conditioning coach. Okay. He left that position to take a job with the Chicago Blackhawks, where he's been ever since. He's not had a bad run there.
Right. He's done very well.
So he was awesome. I'd spoken at a couple clinics, and when he left, I think the process is a little more selective and organized now, but he was basically like, hey, do you want to take over as state director? Submit your resume to these guys. And I told him, you're awesome and you've been doing stuff. So I kind of went through the application process, but I took over as state director. And then that allowed me to get involved in the NSCA a little bit more. Also at that time when I was at the River Valley Club, I was the strength coach for a semi-pro basketball team called the Vermont Frost Thieves. So again, just more and more of these athlete, training things coming up, and I was really enjoyed that. They were a really good team. Did a couple, every year I'd go to the national conference. I would try and meet more people. I met people like Jay Dawes, some of the first people, Mike Barnes, who was the education director of the NSCA at the time. Just some of these first people that I meet, and Avery Fagenbaum, and they say, come out and hang out with us, and then you just talk shop all night. So I really felt that the NSCA was a really great organization to be involved with because of these guys, and it showed that they really cared about what these state level people who were, we're kind of the little fish in the big sea when you're talking about people you're seeing presenting on that stage, and they're inviting you to hang out. So it made me really want to do more with them. I was on a committee in 2010, strategic planning committee, and there was a it was all the big dogs. I mean, I sat next to Dr. Steve Fleck, who eventually became the board of director president. You know, Mike and Meg Stone were in that room,
wow.
Lee Brown, and there was me and 2 other state directors, and we were kind of like,
do we belong here?
How did we get in here? They weren't checking the IDs.
Right, that's an amazing lineup right there.
Yeah, and it was amazing. But you know what? Probably the coolest thing about that strategic planning thing is Lee Brown pulled a couple of us, me and another guy who was a state director, aside, and he said, "Don't you guys be intimidated by some of these old farts in here, because we're not going to be around forever." And he goes, "You guys are going to be the ones leading the NSCA someday."
Absolutely.
And at the time, you know, really, you're just like, wow, that's pretty cool. No idea that, like, you know, and so that kind of flashes too. The next part is that I had been to Colorado for a clinic before that, and I said, man, this place is really cool. You know, if I had the opportunity to do something out here at the NSCA headquarters, I would probably jump at the chance. And I just put that out kind of to the people that I met there and told them that.
Okay.
And so I said, hey, if you guys ever have a job that comes up here, I want to apply for it. And probably 6 months later, a position opened, and I applied for it and ended up getting it.
And was that the current position you're in now?
No,
Okay,
no, yeah. So I took a job as just an education coordinator. Took about again, kind of a leap of faith thing. I moved from Vermont all the way to Colorado for about $10,000 less than I was making back east, not knowing really anybody.
Right.
So, you know, luckily at the time my life, you know, and my family allowed that to happen. I didn't have anything really tying me there. So made the move. And then got to do a lot of different educational stuff. You know, we did some real interesting things, different projects we worked on with the National Federation of High Schools for a module that we did there, just some other content. But, you know, I was sitting at a desk in the back office, and luckily, it only lasted for about 6 months. The head strength coach position opened up at the headquarters, and I was promoted.
Awesome.
And then my job has totally evolved since then, though. I mean,
Right.
It's crazy to
I was going to say, you wear multiple hats.
Yeah, and since that time, so that was 2011 in January, I moved out there. I've been there almost 5 years now. The last 2 or 3 years, and I think I have to really credit, you know, Coach John Jost, who was on the board of directors, and Coach Boyd Epley, who was kind of my mentor while I was at the NSCA, because now that he has gone back to Nebraska to be a strength coach and assistant AD, I think he maybe knew that he wanted to get back into it, and they were kind of grooming me to take over. But they had been saying all along since I knew them, we need someone to represent strength coaches at the NSCA headquarters. And we didn't really have that. You know, we had education people,
Right.
we had different things, but we didn't have people that were specific to that one group. And now what we have is we have the basic membership of the NSCA represented. I represent the coaches, Tyler Christensen represents our TSAC program, and then Nick Clayton represents the personal training program. And that's kind of our wheelhouse, so to
Right.
speak.
But you guys have done such a good job, like I said, bringing in top-notch speakers, putting out fantastic information online, and also in the journals. You know, it serves as such a resource for me. I've been in the field 20 years, but for the young, you know, kids coming out of school, I mean, if they don't understand how huge that is, to go to that, and at the end today, I'm going to have you put, verbally tell us what the website is for the NSCA, because I think it's important for them to get on and just navigate it and see what's on there. Heck, I was on there not too long ago watching Nick Winkleman's periodization talk. I mean, there's so much great information out there that you guys have put forth. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, the content you're talking about, and having been a member, you know, when a chance to come work at the NSCA headquarters, I saw as a chance to really impact other members. And it was like, all right, and I know this is a knock that we've had before, and this is one of our big initiatives is, all right, I get my membership and I get certified, but I don't stay a member, because there wasn't a whole lot of meat and potatoes to that membership.
Okay.
And so that was a big thing that I've really pushed, is we need more member benefits, more and more. And content was one of them. I think the career stuff that we've done, there's entire career tracks now at the conferences, the career videos that we put from those to help people.
Yeah, actually, I was able to be a part of one of those at the national conference, and that was really cool. How, again, you don't have to,
right?
And you guys are putting those out there, and you're getting the presenters in those roundtable discussions with conference attendees, and they can ask them real questions, just like we are doing right now. And remind me of those tracks. Those are the SIG tracks, right? The SIG tracks.
Well, that's a whole nother series too. Yeah, but there's a specific kind of career talk or career track and now we've even evolved it so anyone doing the career talks has to do an article that we put in a career development guide and a video and a speak at a conference related to it. So we've just, I think the amount of things, if you look at the NSCA website today, when you think about resources for you as a member, as a coach, as a trainer, as a tactical person, it's night and day from even 2 years ago, and it's getting better and better every day. So we're getting ready to launch this personal training model. It's called Essentials of Program Design. It's really a tool for personal trainers, but I was looking at it today with Nick, our personal training guy, and it might be applicable for everybody. I mean, it's cool. We've got some templates that are available, Excel templates to help people beginning out. You and I probably have our own system and we use our templates really well, but someone just starting out, gosh, I know. I was looking at a different template every week and trying to steal one from, whenever I got a new one, I would take theirs. Oh, this is way cooler, yeah. So hopefully we're gonna simplify a little bit of that for people. There's video tutorial on how to use the template. And one of the other cool things in our coaching realm that's going to apply for everybody though, and you've probably heard about it, you've heard Mary talk about it or anyone else, is the LIFTS course. Where it's kind of the catchphrase for it, but it's a hands-on certificate program for coaches. And it's not going to be assessing you on how you're able to demonstrate technique. It's going to be how are you able to coach someone through a progression, and that's what you're going to be assessed on. And it's going to be accredited certificate, first ever for the NSCA.
Well, that's actually a huge, that's awesome, because I think there's a lot of practitioners that can, do an exercise with pristine technique, however, they can't coach it. They're just hoping that the end user, their client, can watch them do it and implement it. And then you have people on the other hand who can't do it at all, however, that can coach it extremely well. That's really a cool way to do things.
Yeah, and it's really neat. There's about 12 or 14 coaches that are helping develop it from all over. If they represent high school coaches, college, researchers, we've got a really solid crew that has helped develop this. I'm actually going to Cal State Fullerton to kind of do a dry run, really the first test run of it in October. And we're hoping to have our first live version in January at the Coaches Conference.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So
is that with Dr. Galpin?
Yep.
Cool.
And Francis Narek, who's in our certification department, is a Fullerton guy, and so he's kind of set it up through those guys, Dr. Brown and Galpin, so it's going to be exciting.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you guys have so many things going on, and again, always, trailblazing. We're not just sitting around, we're trailblazing, and that's what I love is at every conference you have so many different people from so many different abilities and perspectives in strength and conditioning, and that's what I think has made the NSCA so successful in the last number of years, is the fact that they've listened to the membership and said, we're going to offer this, and we're going to go out there and we're going to get the best practitioners from every every method that we can implement as strength and conditioning coaches. And it's so cool to watch you guys grow and evolve it. What other things do you have coming up personally with the NSCA?
Well, I'm gonna be going to Human Kinetics to finalize some of these video assets for the new Essentials tech. So that's pretty exciting. Being a co-chapter author on a couple of the new editions of the Essentials techs. We reshot all those photos in that book, so that comes out this fall. Same thing for the exercise technique manual, which a lot of people may have or have seen, that white cover. Redid all the photos, we redid videos. So I'm going to finalize that. And then the week after that, my boss and I are going to go to Indianapolis, and we're meeting with a bunch of organizations. So we're going to meet with the NCAA, we're going to meet with the National Federation of High Schools, ACSM, we're going to meet with them while we're out there, and I'm going to meet with USA Football. So just a lot of possible partnership stuff and opportunities to really do more with some bigger organizations.
Right, like last year, I think you guys, I think Major League Baseball and NBA as well, you really pushed forward to get the NSCA kind of ingrained into some of their conferences.
Yeah, and that was exciting. We've kind of been involved with baseball for a long time. I spoke at the Major League Baseball winter meetings with you last year. I was your demonstrator.
That was awesome. Definitely the highlight of your career, right?
That was great. And so those guys have had it for a long time. So to be at the minor league coordinator or Major League Baseball level, you have to have a CSCS and the RSCC designation. Basketball got involved with us, NBA strength coaches, to really kind of continue their path. They've been really rising and trying to show, hey, look, the strength coach is a legitimate position and this is a profession. And so their partnership with us is to help them with some content and get more of their guys RSCC, and also them to provide more content to us. The NSCA Coach is going to the online magazine is going to have a special basketball issue this year with a bunch of NBA strength coaches featured.
Awesome.
There's some other ones in the works, hopefully, that will come down the pipeline. We're trying to develop a better relationship with the NCAA.
Yeah.
With the new ruling related to Division I that was just enacted August 1st, all Division I strength conditioning coaches have to have an accredited certification. There's only a few out there that really fit the bill, and really only two that I can think of, ours and the CSCCA, that can be an accredited strength and conditioning certification if you really go by the criteria and you want the top level.
Wow, awesome.
So that's going to be cool. A lot of coaches have been, trying to get certified by this deadline, and so we're doing everything we can to help them with the NSCA resources that are available.
Well, that's wonderful. That again, it's what you've been doing is like we want to hold this accountability to everybody in our field, and that's wonderful. And the coaches out there, there's a lot of bright coaches who go different routes to get different certifications, different education, but that's great that you guys are actually sitting there saying, we will help you guys get this process. You don't have to stress about it. We will help take care of that.
Yeah, another cool thing that came out of that whole thing too, and I think a lot of people didn't know about it, is that the certification committee, allowed, at one time it may have been different, but if people let their CSCS lapse, so a lot of coaches got too busy, they had different priorities, they had kids, they didn't have enough money, they let their CSCS lapse, and for a time, I think a lot of people thought you had to just take the test over again. And so what we have now is a reinstatement process. So you pay a reinstatement fee, and as long as you can prove that you did the continuing education required and pay whatever renewal fee would have been assessed, you can get your CSCS reinstated. So some of these coaches, who have let it lapse for a while, as long as they can prove they did the continuing ed, they can get it reinstated.
Oh, that's great, because I'm sure a lot of them, that's their concern, is sitting down and taking that test again.
I don't want to take the test again.
I have 3 coaches right now who are preparing for that test right now, and they're sitting in here with their book, and they're stressing out, and they're freaking out, and it's cool to see. To me, I think that's a unique time when you grow as a practitioner, where you're deciding, am I going to stay at this plateau and take that next rise up, or, to your point, or am I just content with who I am?
Right.
And so anytime I see my coaches in here and they're studying, I can see they're stressed out. I love it. I love that feeling.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple questions. So who would you say are the biggest mentors to you that have gotten you to this place you are today?
I would say probably Paul Goodman from the Blackhawks, and again, at the time he was with the University of Vermont. he really kind of taught me about what it's like, what you really do as a strength coach, that you really need to train yourself to know how to use these movements and teach athletes. So he really got me involved in it in the beginning. He got me jazzed up. This woman, Jen Paljasic, that I mentioned, she was the fitness director when she hired me and ran the personal training, but she knew the business side, and she always used to say, she did a presentation, she always used to talk about, it's all about results and relationships. And again, we've talked about relationships through this thing, and she talked about it from a training perspective, but it's life, it's everything that we do, especially as strength and conditioning practitioners, is about results and our relationships we build. So that she was really, and her husband Chris, who again is just a tremendous practitioner, and he trains still all the time, and he gives back, he educates their staff every week on a lot of this movement stuff that he's really gotten well known for. They just had a tremendous impact on me. And since I've been at the NSCA, I've been really fortunate to have, Boyd Epley, the godfather, the reason we have a career, to be able to learn from him while I was there, and to be able to come up here and do your mentorship and learn more about training from you has been phenomenal, and so it's exciting. Right now, I actually just started a master's program at the University of Denver with a guy named Dr. Garrity, former strength coach. Now he's got his PhD, he's a professor. I don't know that I'm ever going to go down that road. I got to get this master's first, but he's a new mentor in my life, and just a whole nother level of stuff that I didn't think I would be interested in, research and learning, and to be excited about starting this program. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome! Like the stuff I'm getting to learn at this point in my career. I didn't think I would be excited about going back to school, but it's been awesome.
And I was going to say, that's what we do as coaches, right? We always try to evolve. But I love to see your excitement, your passion for doing that, because I think it's so easy to sit there and say, oh, I'm okay, I'm content with what I've got. Right. But with obviously your path and what you've done in your time, I mean, you've gone from, working the front desk to fitness manager to look where you are now. And honestly, it's an honor to hear your story and your chronological path. It's really cool.
Thanks. And it's evolving. I've been training Colorado College hockey for the last 4 years. This summer, just with all the other NSCA things, I decided to step down from that, and that was hard, right? Because I mean, that's a pretty big team, and it's a well-known, and I'm like, my ego, is saying, wow, can you really not be their strength coach anymore? And I had to think about the bigger picture, the NSCA and the bigger picture coaching education that I do for the NSCA coaches. And really, coaching coaches is what my real mission is now. But again, things pop up. We've worked with the Cheyenne Mountain football team, high school football team this summer, which was a blast. And there's all these different things that will come up, at different times. I had an opportunity in 2014 to work with the U.S. Paralympic sled hockey team before they went to Sochi. I trained them for an entire kind of training camp. So, just had some cool experiences at the NSCA. Probably the best thing about the Colorado College situation is without having me there, they decided to create a new position. So my good friend Kevin Cronin, the head strength coach over there, has a new assistant. That position was never there before, and that's kind of the bigger mission, I think. And for me, that I helped create a new job for strength coach.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, I saw that listed for jobs, and I was wondering what was going on there. So, well, good for you to be moving on to other things, and I love your vision of just helping coach the coaches, because at the end of the day, to move an organization like that, you have to have somebody who's been in the trenches, but somebody who truly has a deep-seated passion to watch us grow and go in the right direction. So, last question I'm going to ask you. Right. Okay, you already talked about one, but if you can give me 2 books that you could recommend to somebody watching this interview that you feel that were inspiring books to you. They can be on the training side or not. Completely up to you. And please also say that title of that book again. Okay. That you mentioned earlier.
One that I dove into a long time ago, and I kind of got back into it again recently, was Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's a business book, isn't it? You know, it doesn't really have to do anything to do with training, but has everything to do with training. You know, they talk about all these different principles from different other organizations and different backgrounds, and they relate them to business, and just so many of those things relate to strength and conditioning. I think that's a great book.
Okay.
You know, I heard about it at a conference, and now it's funny when I keep hearing about it. I think another great one that just came out last year is A Call to Serve by Jeff Connors.
Okay.
He's a strength coach at East Carolina University. Gotten to know him. He's been involved with the NSCA and the CSCCA for his entire career. Phenomenal strength coach, and he talks about a little bit of everything in that book. You know, he talks about his life and how it affected him as an athlete, as a coach, and his entire 20-year career. Really cool stuff. New books. This is more than two. You know, like I said, I'm partial to the NSCA, the new Essentials text, because I think we've updated that. You know, all-star cast of chapter contributors. You know, all these different people contributing to update stuff, update research, update training in it, and to update the picture. So that was really exciting. And then who knows? You know, there's so many books that I have on my to-read list.
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah, I've got Ron McKeefery's book just showed up at my house the other day. I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to find time to read all these books, but well, I can't thank you enough. And I want to go back to one point about the NSCA that I absolutely love. You go to all conferences, okay? And you can go in and you can listen to a practitioner talk 60, 90 minutes and just get an idea, tip of the iceberg of maybe that person's philosophies or a little bit of their practice and what they do. To your point, as a young practitioner, the most important thing is to communicate. Shake hands, talk to people, introduce yourself, and just try to be a sidebar into some of those conversations. I, like you, one of my first NSCA conferences, I was there with, I got invited into a room to talk with a group of practitioners. It was Stephen Pliss, Doug Lentz, John Graham, and I'm sitting there looking around going, what am I doing here? But as these conferences, I go to all of these different conferences, I find the most amazing takeaways that I have are the sidebar discussions you have at lunch, are the quick little conversations that you have. I mean, the content of the conference is fantastic, but it's the networking and the connections that are being made that are just, you can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, I've had an influence on other people, and it's the kind of volunteerism of an organization like the NSCA and the people willing to give back that have made it so special to me and you too, you know, you can tell.
It is an honor to be involved with the organization. So thank you for making the drive up, and thank you for the awesome interview.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, brother.